Hey everyone, and welcome back to their Movie Mates episode. I'm Matthew, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Oh,
Hey man, great to see you. So today
great
we're
to see
back
you.
with another Disney installment where we're covering four more Disney films. It's been a while since we recorded a Disney episode specifically, so I'm looking forward to getting back into it. And it feels like we've been doing this journey forever, dude. I said that every Disney episode, but it really does,
I
doesn't it?
know.
There's so many of
It's
them.
just because I would say more than half of them are quite bad, and I would say that trend
That's fair,
continues
yeah.
today.
That's definitely
Next week
fair.
though, bangers. I've looked at them. It's
Oh,
like Brother Bear.
oh,
That's the only one I
banger.
can remember.
That's so
Uh,
good.
the four of them though, I was like that's not great. But today, I know you're a big fan of Tarzan.
Oh
We'll
yes.
we'll, we'll talk about it. But yeah, I would say pretty shit deck here today.
Oh no, really? Because these three films are the ones I have the most nostalgia for. Well, not definitely not the Fantasia 2000. So I'll let you explain what movies we're gonna be talking about today.
Well, today we're continuing the journey of doing four episodes, four films per episode. Today we're talking Tarzan, Fantasia 2000, which is a sequel to the original from, I believe, it was the 1940s or the 1950s, somewhere in that realm.
Yeah,
We
something
don't
like
care enough about it to remember.
that. Yeah.
Dinosaur and Emperor's New Groove. Now, I actually hadn't seen any of these films today. I have like vague memories of Tarzan, but I really think that's just sort of pop culture awareness. I don't think I've actually seen the film.
Sure.
I know you're a big Tarzan fan, but which of the other ones had you seen?
Well, Tarzan and Emperor's New Groove and Dinosaur are some of my favorite Disney films. So I've seen those three. Fantasia 2000, of course. I've not seen that, but no,
Still haven't seen it.
yeah. Pretty much. But yeah. So three of these films are my favorites, so I'm looking forward to talking with you about them today. But yeah, just before we kick off today's episode, thanks very much for everyone who supported the channel recently. Really appreciate it. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on these Disney films down below. We'd love to hear them. And of course, email us if you'd like at moviematespodcast@gmail.com. So, what's the first film then, buddy?
So the first film for today is Tarzan, and as I said, I am quite confident I haven't actually seen this film, at least not start to finish. I was sort of aware of, I was obviously aware of the entire plot. It's not particularly, it's not a complex plot.
Sure. Yeah.
I was quite familiar with the sort of beats that it was going to take. Do you want to talk about sort of your nostalgia for this film? As it actually being what one of your childhood favorites.
Yeah, sure, man. So yeah, this film I love so much. I think maybe the nostalgia is definitely boosted by like that Phil Collins soundtrack. It is so good.
Oh yeah,
There's so
it's
many great
fantastic.
shit. It is so good. And the animation style, it's a little bit it probably doesn't age up as well, but I really like it, the hand drawn stuff. And I don't know, I think there's not even anything really particularly special about this film. It was one of those films where it could have been any film where I watched at a certain age and I'd have nostalgia for it. But no, I think the soundtrack and definitely like I quite like the Tarzan and Jane romance. I thought it was quite sweet. So I'm a big fan of this one, dude.
We'll get into
Well,
that.
yeah, we'll definitely get into it because it's definitely a talking point for sure. But I suppose like from overall standpoint, like this film it's quite similar to the Jungle Book, isn't it?
It is fairly similar. I barely remember watching The Jungle Book. I was gonna be like, but have I even seen that? Yes, we've talked about it on the channel, and if you want to listen to it, watch episode whatever it is of
Yeah,
the podcast.
just
It's
watch
probably
all of
it's
them.
probably in the thumbnail. Just go for it. Yes, it is quite similar, and knowing that this is sort of going to be like sort of a jungle adventure, I was very put off by the idea. But actually watching it, I enjoyed it far more than I expected to. And sort of for a bit of contextual knowledge, Matthew, are you familiar with any of the theories that connect it to other Disney films?
I'm not, mate. I'm not. Please share. I'm intrigued.
So there are two theories, at least of which I'm familiar with, that can connect these to both past and future Disney films. One is quite a big theory and not very good, and one's a much smaller theory but has a bit more legs. So the first is to connect this story to Frozen. So in Frozen, which we'll be watching in a few weeks, uh, Anna and Elsa, the two princesses in that film, their parents go away on a journey by sea, and their ship crashes, and they are never seen again. So the theory is that they had a new baby whilst on this journey, and then
Okay,
shipwrecked, and they were actually Tarzan's parents. Therefore, Tarzan is the brother of Anna and
that's
Elsa.
interesting.
I,
That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fun theory. It is very weak though. Like
It's a
we
stretch.
see,
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
and if you're at all familiar with like the source material that this is based on, you know that he's of sort of he's of sort of like noble blood, and his parents are sort of uh he's like the last Earl of Clayton. I think
Yeah,
that's his title.
something like
In
that.
the book on which this is based, the character of Clayton that we see in this film is actually his cousin. So that there's actually a sort of
Okay,
familial
that's cool.
connection
I
there.
didn't know that.
And we sort of we see the British flag like on their treehouse, so like we
Yeah,
know they're
it's
not from
everywhere.
Arundel, but I think it's fun nonetheless.
Absolutely.
Uh, the other one is it's a bit less complex, but it has more standing, and that's that at the beginning of The Little Mermaid, we sort of see that Ariel likes to collect things that she finds under the sea, and there's this sunken ship that she sort of visits early on in the film,
Hmm.
and people have just like the entire theory is just that that's the ship that went down
That's quite
at the start of
cool.
this film.
That's quite cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, again, this is set in the African jungle, and Little Mermaid is set in some nondescript place. There's been arguments it's either the Caribbean or Italy, but neither of which I think would be located anywhere near the jungle that we see in this film.
That's
But
true.
again, I still think it's fun.
That's really interesting, buddy. Absolutely, and I think the fact that the film is sort of covered in a bit of mysticism, like it's especially with the opening. I think that those three series are actually quite interesting. I quite like that to be true. And one thing about this film I really enjoyed is, as I said, the soundtrack. Like the soundtrack is one of my favorites. Like there's so many good tunes in here, and Phil Collins' voice is so unique. Like it really blends together well with the tone of the film, I think. But like I think this film is quite violent for a kids film. I don't know. So there's a
Yeah,
lot
it's
of
so violent.
deaths and a lot of attacks and stuff like that. It's quite brutal in many respects.
Yeah, because I think that the like opening musical number is incredible, but it is way too upbeat. Sorry, it like during that like he's obviously learning to be himself, and his parents are it's this uplifting story of uh persisting through struggle, and
Sure.
then it's just like whoa, fun shipwreck and eaten by a leopardess. Let's party. Like it's way
Literally.
too fun. Like for
Yeah,
like it does
literally,
not
dude.
match the tone whatsoever.
Also, the film seems to present how like Tarzan's parents are the only ones that survived that shipwreck, but surely there'd be hundreds of people just dead. They're just like, yeah, play some Phil Collins tunes, it's fine. But no, I do
And their
agree with you.
entire ship like burns to a crisp, and yet like they're able to find like drawers and mirrors in the jungle to furnish their new home.
Yeah, they've got like I think they've got like clocks in their bedroom. I was like, where are you getting those clocks from, mate? But yeah, the leopard in this film, I think it's called like, or she's called like Saber or something. She's really scary for a kids film, but I thought the actual animal effects were actually really good, especially on the
Oh
leopard. Like
yeah.
they sounded real.
Oh no, the animation is absolutely fantastic. I think this was the 10th film in the Disney Renaissance, and I feel like based on the shit that we're going to be talking about today, I'd call it the last.
Yeah,
This is where Disney takes a
peaked.
turn for the worst.
Well, not
But I
peaked,
but I
but
think I think it's gonna turn back around with the four films that we'll be talking about next episode. But I think we should talk a little bit about Jane, because she enters the story around
sure.
like the half hour mark. After we've sort of established what Tarzan is to the rest of his tribe,
Hmm.
to the rest of his family. And Jane and her dad, come to sort of study the apes, and they're sort of very naive as to Clayton's intentions, with the apes. I mean, incredibly clear that he's the villain,
Absolutely.
unquestionably.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to be so dumb to not see that. If you were
Oh, for
someone
sure.
dealing with that person,
For sure.
it's excusable. It's a kids' film. But Jane comes to study apes. Yet in the escape, like of where she sort of when the apes get agitated and she's chased and Tarzan saves her, she probably kills about 20. Like she just like pushes them off the tree with her umbrella. They're dead.
They're so dead. And like the thing about yeah, like she's supposed to be an expert on apes and stuff, but like she seems quite not clueless. That sounds too harsh, but I'm sort of leaning towards that word a little bit. But
Yeah.
the
I mean,
Clayton character,
her expertise, seems to stretch as far as she can draw one.
yeah, 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 maybe that's it. But like the Clayton character, I quite liked him because he sort of reminded me of like Craven the Hunter meets Gaston.
Oh,
So
that's great. Yeah.
I thought he was quite a cool character, but yeah, it is quite obvious like he's the villain and stuff in this. But yeah, There's so many times, like speaking of death, where like Tarzan should just be dead. Like honest, I know it's a kids' film, but like there's so many incidents where I'm surprised. Like I'm surprised like an ape hasn't even killed him or something. To be honest with you, like I would not want to get be stuck in a room with one of those things. Like they'd probably like just maul you to death.
Yeah, I mean, not to overanalyze, but I suppose if he was raised by apes, like maybe his muscles were so
Oh, that's true.
brutalized
Actually,
that
that's a good point.
he
Yeah.
sort of adjusted. That's why he has such sick abs.
Yeah.
You know, like I do have like the only reason that Jane seems to stay with him because she can barely communicate with him. It's just that he has sick abs. Like
Sick abs.
that's the
What?
only trait he's got going for him.
Do you think he shaves?
I
Surely,
suppose so.
because surely, like during the time in the jungle, I don't know how old Tarzan would be, but like surely he's bound to grow some facial hair at least.
You would like to think. I mean, I suppose the animators in their mind wanted to contrast him as far as they could between the apes,
That's
and with
true.
how hairless he is.
That's true.
But that why would Jane stay with him?
Because he's got abs, mate. He's got
She's
abs. That's
abandoning
why.
her whole aristocratic scientist life, to just stay with him because he has sick abs. Like it's not worth it.
I know. Well, I know because it's weird because like I really I do really like the Tarzan Jane romance. I think it's quite innocent and sweet and stuff. And I think I think one character that we could have like a moral discussion on is Kerchak, the leader of the ape tribe. But is he right to sort of be fearful of humans and not treat Tarzan like his like one of them? I suppose. Like, what are your thoughts? Because I think he is supposed to be like the second antagonist or something close to that. But by the end, he's supposed to have like a moral journey where he like realizes he was wrong. So I'm just interested to see your thoughts on that development.
I mean, I don't think he was right to blame Tarzan for sort of bringing the humans to the gorillas because I think they would have found them otherwise. But I think the fear of something you don't understand. If you're sort of in this world of predators, I
It's a good
suppose it's
point.
understandable. I think where humans are fearful of other humans, that's just nonsensical. But I feel like we're scared of like if a tiger approached you, you'd shit yourself.
Yeah, no,
So
yeah, that's
I
true.
mean,
That's true.
for a gorilla, for this gorilla, he has no idea of the potential threat because he's presumably never seen a human. So
It's a good point.
I suppose you would jump to the worst of conclusions if it's something that is so visually foreign to your species. So
Yeah,
I think he was right initially, but after he'd sort of been raised and that he has like the moral standing and sort of like embodies like the ethics of your tribe. I feel like he should have accepted him as a son sooner at least. But I feel like his initial reaction of fear was understandable.
yeah, I think you smashed it there, buddy. I agree completely. And like one thing we were talking about stuff, like how this film is quite violent. But one thing I really didn't notice until this rewatch is that Clayton actually dies by being
Yeah,
hung. Like that is
yeah.
brutal. I can't believe that. Like they don't go as far to show it, but they show like a shadow cast from it, and it's something
I
I
mean,
didn't notice
yeah.
till this rewatch. It's wow, brutal.
Yeah, I actually didn't see that on my watch this time, but I've sort of seen the images of it on the internet. But what
Mhm.
I actually wrote is because as the viewers are hopefully aware of, Matthew has a sick, twisted, enjoyment of the death of
I
characters
absolutely
in
do.
children's films.
I
So
absolutely
I
do.
actually wrote, I haven't seen a Disney death in a while, which made Matthew more giddy. So which one really made you more amped up? Were you like, yeah, Kurt Chapter, like, yeah, Clayton?
Both,
Uh,
both,
I think you actually,
both.
I mean, you usually like to see actually the good guys die. I feel like that gives you
It's
more of a thrill.
refreshing. It's refreshing.
Bambi's mom, you were like,
I was loving
yes,
that. I was loving that. And the thing is, like, that's actually in the channel description as well. That I'm a big fan of.
yeah,
Children's characters' deaths. But yeah, no, Kerchak's death. I put here Kerchak's death was sad. I don't know how true that is. But the Clayton death is really it's horrifying as well. But I suppose it was his comeuppance for the film. But I don't know. I probably deserved a good prison sentence, but death. Oh, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. But yeah, like there's a lot of this film is quite it's quite grown up as well. I can see why the Tarzan films have been so successful with like live action adaptations. I think like was it Margot Robbie was in one a few years ago, wasn't she?
yeah. It was the Legend of Tarzan with Alexander Skarsgård and Margot Robbie.
I've seen photos of
He,
him with his abs, and they are crazy.
yeah, he's got the V muscles.
Yeah, yeah, the V
As
cut, yeah.
comedian Ed Gamble calls them, the dick arrows.
Yeah, Oh, I love Ed Gamble. But yeah, I actually haven't seen that film. Have you?
No, I actually looked for it on Netflix because I sort of wanted to watch it following this. It sort of give me
Yeah.
an interest because it sort of acts as, I mean, I believe it shows like him sort of readjusting to life in London, and then he has to come back to the jungle.
Yeah,
So
I
I
think
think it's sort
so.
of a spiritual sequel, and it works sort of like watching that film after this one. I think they connect better. But I feel like if you give Tarzan too much speech, it sort of breaks the film
Yeah, it ruins the
because
character. Yeah.
I feel like if you're accepting of the Jane and Tarzan romance, which I'm not fully on board with, I feel like the charm comes from the fact that they have to it's sort of more of an instinctual feeling rather than one that's through communication.
It's a great
And we can
point,
sort
dude,
of talk
actually.
about
Yeah.
that now because you've said that you find it sweet and innocent. I've
Oh
just written,
no.
is the romance fucked? Like, we talk a lot on the channel about where to draw the line at what is bestiality. We've talked about
We have
if you have sex with
Peter
a
Pan.
humanoid alien, is that bestiality? But here the real question is having sex with this human, even though he's a human,
It's a little bit
bestiality?
weird. It's a little bit weird,
Because
isn't it? It's so
he's
strange.
biologically human, but socially and communication wise, he is an ape.
He's one
You
of
know,
them. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you
yeah.
mean.
So
And like, it
is
is
it
a good
fucked?
question. It's
I
a
don't
good
know.
question. Like, and yeah, he clearly. Oh, I don't know. It's the more and more you think about it, and more you look at that relationship, it does become quite apparent that it is very strange, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as an adult, I was able to watch it just immediately go, bit
A
strange,
bit
not for
strange,
me.
yeah. I know. But yeah, like that being said, maybe it's not too innocent actually. I might rescind that point. But no, like I think one of my favorite sort of decisions made in the film is that Jane and her dad stay with Tarzan. I think that's a nice, sweet sort of message. Like rather than Tarzan going with them to Britain, they stay with him. So I think that's quite nice. And yeah, like I'm a big. I think a sequel for this film. I'd love to see. I know there was a prequel as well, but I'd love to see like a continuation of the storyline to see where it would go.
Yeah, there was a sequel TV series, I think it was The Adventures of Tarzan, and they sort of released a film called Tarzan and Jane,
Oh yes, I
but
remember seeing
it's
that. Yeah,
actually it's not on Disney Plus though. I guess because it has like 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like I think it's widely regarded as shit. So I don't think. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think it's one that we're gonna look at,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah. Maybe one day, and like the near
Maybe
the far future.
if we run out of literally every other
Yeah,
film to talk about,
yeah.
we'll go for that.
Literally, dude, literally. Have you got any other points for the film, dude?
No, there's nothing more for me on Tarzan. Anything from you?
Nothing from me, buddy. I'd love to hear your rating then for this one.
So I enjoyed this film a lot more than I could, a lot more than I imagined I would. I think it got me thinking a surprising amount for a kids film. We'll talk about Emperor's New Groove and Dinosaur, but I sort of was able to just mentally switch off there. But I sort of like a film where I sort of mentally engage. I was asking myself moral questions like, is she is Jane being weird? Maybe. I sort of
Yeah.
like a film that gets me thinking. So I enjoyed it a lot more than I expected. I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, I thought you made some fantastic points as always there, Callum. And for
I
me,
imagine we're going to see a Matthew 10 out of 10.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. This is one of my
unsurprising.
favorite Disney films. Love the soundtrack, love the characters, and I think the storyline's pretty cool as well. So for me, 10 out of 10. That's definitely my nostalgia speaking, but we move, we move.
Before we talk about Fantasia 2000 quickly, we just took a moment's break for a second, and I was just having a thought, and you can choose whether to leave this in or not, but we've talked previously, mostly in the Peter Pan episode, about, and as we referenced just a few minutes ago, we asked the question. Well, I asked you the question: is having sex with an alien bestiality? And I just wanted to pose something to you because you were sort of a strong opponent of my opinion, which is yes. Because really, what is an animal other than a sentient being that isn't a human? I feel like
Sure.
an alien truly is closer to an animal than it is to a human.
Sure.
But you were sort of a strong opponent, and I just wanted to put an image in your head and
Oh
just
no.
ask you, when we watch the Thor films and he's chatting with Natalie Portman, that's cute, sweet, sexy. But what if someone was fucking ET? That's messed up. You would have
That's
an issue
messed
with
up.
that.
maybe I should rephrase.
So are you just a bit prejudiced to the certain aliens that you allow to
That
have
might
sex
be
with
it. That
humans?
might be it. Or I might say I don't mind humanoid aliens technically, but I suppose ET is a
Yeah,
humanoid
but they
alien
just
because he has.
look like humans. They're not biologically humans.
That's true. That's true. It's because of his abs, mate. It's ladies are a sucker for abs.
Yeah.
Gotta be
I
that.
mean,
Gotta be that.
very off topic, but on the idea of humanoid aliens, whenever I watch a Star Wars film, and it's set, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and then you sort of look up, you look up the character descriptions, and it says that, like, say Luke, Leia, and Han are all humans, and I'm like, well, clearly they're not born on Earth, they're not humans, they're
Yeah,
humanoid aliens. But
sure.
people say species human. No, incorrect.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Like they're humanoid aliens. They can't possibly be humans if they don't come from Earth. Surely, unless they're
yeah.
saying that there's some, unless I mean they've sort of talked about the idea of hell in Star Wars. So maybe there is a heaven in this universe. Maybe there is a God, and God just cherry picked which planets to put humans on.
It's a good point. That's a
I
good
don't
point.
know.
It's like, so if let's say, for example, if we were born in Mars, would we be Martians?
I mean, inherently you would think so, but is that maybe you just your location rather than your species? Like, is Martian maybe just a synonym for alien, but that alien could technically be a human?
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
If they had like 100% the same biological makeup as us, then surely inherently that would make them a human,
Yeah.
even if they came from a different planet. But I don't believe that in Star Wars they do. That's
It
all I'm
still
saying.
blows my
I mean,
mind that they're like
surely
humans
if
in
they have a
Star Wars.
connection to the Force, that's something that would make their biology different to just a
Yeah,
standard, like,
you'd think so. Yeah,
terrestrial human.
yeah. No, you definitely think so, mate. I definitely think so. There's maybe a video in that. We'll see.
Maybe.
But no, the next film is one that I have to confess I didn't finish, but it's Fantasia
Did you
2000.
start it?
I started it. I started it.
You didn't even like start it, then muddle your way through it, and then
I was on my
finish it.
phone. I'll be honest.
You
Yeah,
just stopped halfway through.
I'll be honest, mate. It was a rough watching because there are some segments in this I actually don't mind, but like I think it's gonna be a very similar review to the first Fantasia, where it's like it's very for a very specific audience, isn't it?
Yeah, this was like I actually actively searched to see whether the Disney Plus had playback settings because I was just going to put it on like 2 times the speed, watch the
Yeah,
whole thing,
yeah.
and get it done in like 35 minutes. But no, I suffered through most of it.
Good
I
man.
would say of the like 8 segments, I skipped two, and one of them was The Sorcerer's Apprentice because I'd already seen it.
Yeah.
And we can sort of talk about their decision to just. I mean, do you even know? Do you even know about this?
Just the one
I
with
don't know.
Mickey Mouse and the magician.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, but did you? Well, one, did you even watch that in the first one? And two, did you get to that like being repeated in this one?
I remember it in the first one, but I didn't. I don't think even got to that point in this one. To
Okay,
be honest with you, mate.
I'll tell
If I
you about
did, I
it
must have
later in the
skipped it.
review.
But like
I'll tell you about it later in the review.
no worries. But no, like yeah, like we were saying, this film's a very specific audience, and I was looking up on online there, and this film had an $80 to $85 million budget, but made 90. So
I read
that was
this.
like that's
So massive
crazy.
flop.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a flop.
completely,
Yeah.
completely. So hopefully we don't get like a Fantasia 3000 or a Fantasia 2021 or something
Thankfully,
like.
we'll be dead
Yeah,
if
yeah,
it's
yeah,
Fantasia
yeah.
3000.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely.
And we,
Go
we
for
we
it.
sort of massively shot in the first film, and we'll probably do that today with this film. But I don't think it was ever in question whether this or even the original had music that is absolutely incredible. It's just that music is something I would never choose to listen to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's yeah, it's definitely it's an acquired taste, I think. But I think it is very good. Like there's no question of that. But I think in this one, like there are some like animations which are actually very good. Like I quite like the humpback whale one where the wheels are like flying in space and stuff. I think that's a very good one. And there are other ones here and there as well. But no, like I think compared to the first one, I don't think. Well, from what I've seen, there wasn't as much as. See, I'm struggling to compare it to Fantasia, the original Fantasia, because I always get it mixed up between like Three Caballeros and like what's the other package films as well? Like I feel so bad.
There was Make Mine Music, Melody Time,
That's it. Yeah,
Fun and Fancy Free,
that's
like
it.
all trash.
Yeah, literally. But no, I know what you mean, but I know what you mean. Like it's definitely an acquired taste musically as well. I've just it's something that's just come up on my laptop here that says meeting time remaining 10 minutes.
Okay. I
Because
mean,
I'm
we can dip in and out. It's
we can
fine.
dip in and out, yeah. We'll be grand. We'll be grand. But yeah, what are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a fair comment to say that like the animation in this is next level. It's just that like this is not a film, just like the first film is not a
Yeah.
film. You know,
Hmm.
it's a visual expression of thought put to music, but that's not a film. It's
Yeah.
not even a music video. You know, like if you have lyricless lyricless music to dialogueless film, that's not a film.
No, it's
You
not a
know,
film,
it's
no. I agree with
it,
you. I
it
agree
so it
with you.
works on no levels as a film, but you know, if you sort of release these as like individual, 8-minute segments on the internet, I think it's a bit of fun.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's, I mean, I don't know which segment you actually watch, but there's one that sort of shows city life, and there's
Like
sort
one
of
in New
sort of the
York.
lives of individual people, yeah, and how
Yeah.
how their lives are brought together, and then there's another about the romance between a toy soldier and a ballerina. I think both of those as individual segments really work. And if you release those just as two short films, I think that'd be really effective. But trying to package it together with like awkward, intercut live action sequences with like terrible comedians, it's just painfully awkward. I mean, Steve Martin here is woeful. Like he's trying to make painful jokes.
Hmm.
He's like, "Oh, is that the little violin man? I can play the violin." Like it's like I
Yeah.
haven't seen Steve Martin in that much. Cheaper by the dozen and whatever it was, like Father of the Bride or whatever it was called. I've seen him in some utter shit, but I assume he's a better comedian than he's presented here.
You know what, buddy? Like that comment you were saying, yeah, about the narrative structure of the film. I actually think if it was like a short, like yeah, like you said, if these 8 segments or how many there were, like were you know little short film before a main Disney film, like I think that would work really well. Like you were saying, like there's some really good segments in here, and I actually think the film would have potential if it wasn't all bundled together, and it feels really choppy. But no, I do agree with you. I do agree with you. Like I definitely think like this was like the last, even like at the year 2000. This is probably stretching it as to when like this film would have been acceptable to release. Like in the 40s, I would get it because there's not much competition in the market. But here, like it's not a film, and I think that this is probably the last time anything like this will probably be made for quite a long time.
Yeah, like they clearly wanted to do it. They clearly wanted to do a throwback to the original, but you should have recognized that it wasn't good and move on,
Yeah.
and that it wasn't appropriate for modern audiences because obviously, maybe back in the day, Fantasia was incredible. But, watching it in the 21st century, it's painful, and I don't think either of us paid massive amounts of attention to it. And here they're doing much the same, even going as far as at one point just literally putting the clip of the Sorcerer's Apprentice in this film with no changes, no update of animation.
Yeah.
It's just the same. And I sort of wanted to ask you, do you think that idea is respectful or lazy?
I think it's a nice. I think it's maybe a bit far to say that it pays a nice homage to it for me, because I think if maybe have that little segment of the Sorcerer Apprentice, maybe not the full segment, I think that would be okay. But to replace the full segment in it, it's sort of how I would view like let's say a superhero movie that we really love and it tries to pay reference to an old superhero movie or whatever like that. Like it's not directly saying you. It's like, for example, how should I say? It's like if Man of Steel had a complete scene from the Christopher
Can
Reeve
I just
movies.
can I just say I was going to say that? Like
That's so
I, I,
weird,
I was
really.
about to say if Man of Steel just dumped in a scene of Christopher Reeve.
Yeah,
That,
that's
no,
so weird.
I was 100% going to say that.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just in my opinion it's laziness.
I
Because
no, I
I
agree.
think
I
that
do. I would
they're
agree with you. Yeah, I'd agree with you. That's so
you know
weird. Like the Christopher Reeve thing. That's strange. Anyway. But yeah,
yeah, I think it was just because we both agreed that those are sort of like polar opposite depictions of the same character,
yeah, it's
and
those
to
two.
sort of bring
Sure.
such a modern looking film and then dumping in this admittedly brilliant looking thing from the from the mid 20th century, it just doesn't fit, and I think it's lazy because if you can't like I
I know
don't
what you
even know what I
mean.
was gonna say.
I
I've
do
just
know where you're
lost my
coming
train of
from.
thought.
I
Like
do know where you're
this
coming from.
film exhausts me mentally. You
I know.
know,
Yeah,
even though there's nothing going on to think about, you know, it sort of just makes your brain trickle out your head. You know,
mm,
it's just sort of
it
it's
does.
painful to experience.
It does.
Uh, but yeah, I do think it's laziness. You know, I would say, you know, if you think it's so iconic to this concept of Fantasia, either don't do Fantasia again. You know, just let it lie. You know, let
Hmm.
it be as it is. Or if you're gonna like, you know, dredge it from the dirt, you know, do something new, do something different,
Such a
and
great
like
point.
as you said, pay homage, but don't rip it off, or you
Yeah,
know, like claim, you know, previously and probably dead artists' work as your own by
that's such
slapping
a
it in
great
this
point.
new terrible film. Well, it's not. Is it? I mean,
Subjective, I suppose.
yeah, I guess it's not a terrible film. It's just good, but not a film.
Yeah,
So therefore, a terrible film because it doesn't meet the
yeah.
criteria of a
It's a
film
good
in my
body of
mind.
it's a good body of work, but maybe not a great cinematic piece. Maybe we could agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
and you
like I
know,
do. Yeah, I do agree with you. Mate. Like I think like clearly that these animators have a lot of talent. So I think why not create another? Surely there's bound to be scenes in the cutting room floor that they didn't use instead of the Sorcerer's Apprentice. So
I'll talk a little bit about that if you
go
want.
for it. Go for it, mate.
Well, there's a live action you know, there's a live action segment you know, a few segments after the one featuring Steve Martin, and it's introduced by I don't remember who, but I don't respect that segment. I assume you probably didn't get to this part because it was the one, I think it introduced the Sorcerer's, oh no, it introduced the segment before the Sorcerer's Apprentice, but it's a segment of just this woman roasting the rejected concepts that were you know you know that were like
Submitted for the film.
submitted as potential segments for the film, and it was just her going like, "Oh, look at these fucking dickheads," you know, like given this concept. You know, there
Yeah.
was one, and it was like by Salvador Dali, and you know there was another, and it was, you know, it was going to be this like epic battle sequence with like flying Pegasus to the theme of, you know, Ride of the Valkyries. Like it would have been fantastic.
Yeah.
And she's just like, look at this fucking shit, and I'm like,
No respect,
take a
really.
look at what you've actually got
Yeah.
in the film.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. That's it.
you can't
Yeah.
say that this is shit. And I feel like just the way they shout on like artists' work was just I had no respect for it. It
Disrespectful.
seemed
Yeah.
really disrespectful. Yeah,
That's such a weird thing to put in the film. That's so weird, isn't it? How did that make it in and
yeah,
the other people's work didn't? So weird.
yeah. I mean, you know, I would say the only sequence I did not watch in the end that was actually new content was like flamingos with yo-yos or something. Like I was like, I can't do this. You know, I just didn't want to put myself through it. But I really think that the animation saves this from being as dreadful an experience as the first, because I feel like they do actually do a bit more with narrative here. You know, because I would say that there's about 8 segments, and I would say 6 of them are narrative-ish. But you know, I would say maybe 2 were in the first film. So I think the narrative structure saves this from being as painful as the first.
Yeah, that's a great point, dude. And like from what I had seen of the movie, it certainly didn't seem like the worst package film, if you want to call it that, that we've seen. Like I think there's a lot worse than this with like Melody Time and other ones. I've already forgotten the names, even though you said them like 10 minutes ago. But anyway, but yeah, like I think there is always in these films, I will say, like Disney clearly have creative people working for them. Like there is potential in every film that they make. It's just whoever is editing this and who is, you know, who submitted this idea probably you know, and I'm not wrong because like as I said, it's very for a very specific audience. I'm sure people do love this, but like I think it was maybe a mistake to have scenes. Well, it definitely was a mistake to have scenes from, you know, the first original Fantasia with, as you said, which the owners of this artwork probably have passed away since. So it is disrespectful, and especially what you said about that lady sort of criticizing the deleted scenes, very disrespectful as well. So it's a very weird one, mate. So it is. It's hard to review, I suppose. Any further remarks for the film, then, buddy?
I just have a breakdown now. Uh,
Yeah, for viewers who listen to this, we've experienced so many technical difficulties, and also I slept in again, so apologies, viewers. And yeah, so we've experienced a lot of technical difficulties this morning, guys. So hopefully you guys enjoy this episode. Hopefully this episode survives and you
Yeah.
actually listen to this. So if you are, everything's fine.
I feel like the majority of what I was saying was just that, you know, it is, as you said, you know, very difficult to rate it as a film because it isn't really one.
Sure.
But, you know, I would say I would be less harsh on this one as I was the first. You know, I feel like I have to be sort of consistent in how I'm going to judge it, but I do think it does a lot of things better. You know, I would say it's more my music. It's definitely shorter, which was, you know, amazing. You know,
Thank God.
the first one was over 2 hours long. This was at least like this was only an hour and I say only, it's painful, but it was an hour and 20. So it was survivable. You know, here I am. You know, it wasn't as awful an experience. The music I think was better. The animation was better. It included a bit more of a narrative structure. I enjoyed it more than I have some of the Disney films that we've had to sit through. You know, some that, you know, even have like a full hour long or hour and a half long narrative have been painful in themselves. You know,
It's a good point.
one that, I mean, you know, it maybe isn't as bad as like that. I'll give you one example. You know, The Sword in the Stone. I had really high expectations of that. It's fucking dreadful. You know,
Yeah, no,
like,
it's yeah.
genuinely difficult to sit through, even when they do have a narrative. You know that. Have you found that? I mean, Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh,
Oh
I was about to
God.
say for you, you hate that. You
I
know
mean,
what?
you love it.
I'm gonna have a wee look
But
here at old Disney films. I think to find out the lowest that I've rated one, I think it might be like a 3.
we definitely give Fantasia like 0 out of 10.
Must have done.
I would say.
Yeah. Let me have a wee look here. I remember like the one episode that I thought was really good was the Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King episode. Like that was
Oh,
solid.
it was great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I remember I wasn't a huge fan of like the Rescuers really.
Oh, I really enjoyed it.
What other ones do we have? Sword in the Stone, I think I gave a 9 here. I have it in my notes. I've given it a 9. Aristocats, I hated that film. God damn it, so bad. I hated it. But yeah, what would you rate this film then, buddy, out of 10?
Well, again, as a film, 0 out of 10. It's not a film. I just don't count it. But you know, did you say good?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know, in my sort of level of enjoyment, quality of animation, quality of music, I'd give it a 5. It wasn't
That's
a,
respectable, yeah.
you know, it was a survivable experience. How do you feel after seeing
Well,
maybe
from the certain percentage that I watched of it, which is probably got to be around the 50 mark, maybe a bit under, maybe yeah. I'd probably say the animations that I did see, I enjoyed. Music was decent. The narrative structure confuses me, and I think the film's still too long. I really do. And for me, I'd probably have to give it like a 6 or a 7. I don't want to be too harsh because obviously I haven't watched the full film, but I would give it that, and hopefully maybe one day I'll finally get around to finishing it because I think I do appreciate these certain bodies of work because I understand that they take a lot of work. Any film does, and maybe it deserved a bit more than just $5 million profit, which probably like with the huge budget of the film, like it might have even lost money with the amount of it took for marketing or like salaries or whatever. So
I mean, you know, industry standard is that, you know, the marketing costs the same amount as the budget. So I doubt they were marketing Fantasia 2000. I can't picture Fantasia 2000 on a billboard or something, or like, you know,
sure,
like a trailer in front of like a talk show or something.
yeah.
But you know that they probably pissed away a lot more money than they made.
Probably, but luckily they made up for it, I suppose, in the long run. But what's the next film we're going to be talking about today, then, dude?
The next film that we're talking about is Dinosaur, and this is an animation style unlike anything I'd ever seen. And I really hope, like, I saw the sort of like, you know, banner image that was on Disney Plus, and I was like, that looks fucking dreadful. The animation, like, and I think I just really wasn't used to it. And you know, I hoped going in that I'd settle into it, and I did for the most part. You know, I think the lemurs look great. The dinosaurs I think are terrible, but everything, you know, in the world around them is fantastic. You know, there's a moment, and I think I really I'm just weirdly obsessed with how water looks, you know, made in CGI or 3D animation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we talked a lot about the rain in Toy Story 4. That was probably the best part about that film.
Yeah.
The rain in the opening sequence. Here, you know, there's a moment where there's sort of like water sloshing over rocks, and I just thought it looked incredible. But then the sort of dinosaur foot, I don't know what you're the dinosaur expert. What would you call their
I'd say
paw?
it's
Obviously,
not yeah, it's not like a foot, it's not like a hoof or a paw, so we'll go with foot.
yeah, so then his like foot, steps into the water, and then you see his full body. I'm like, oh shit, that looks fucking like the dinosaurs do look awful.
Yeah, my opening point here is I think this is a criminally underrated Disney film, but it doesn't feel like a Disney film, and this may be down to the unique animation style. I have never seen a film ever that's animated like this, where it's like a weird CGI that tries to be cartoony in a weird way, but tries to be realistic, but also, it's sort of in the real world as well. Like there's real world settings. It's so
Yeah,
weird. But I
because like
actually really like it. I don't know. I
yeah,
love it.
because they're obviously different kinds of animation. There's flat 2D animation. There's 3D animation like Toy Story, and there's motion capture like CGI. With sort of the for example, there was Beowulf in the 2000s, and do you remember the rejected Justice League film, Justice League Mortal?
I don't, mate. I don't. What was it going to be like?
Uh, I mean, yeah, we'll just go off on this tangent. So basically, in this film, Justice League Mortal, and there's a bunch of like concept images for like the costumes and stuff, and they're dreadful. But this film was basically going to be about. The film opens with a funeral, and the Justice League are carrying a coffin through the streets, and we see everybody's there except Batman. And then we flash back to a few weeks prior, and the Flash has just joined the team, and he's sort of the point of view character. We see the whole thing through his eyes. I mean, this
That's
has
cool.
nothing to do with what I was saying, but I'm just going to tell you the
I
story.
like it. I'm liking it so
Uh,
far.
and then Maxwell Lord, who in Wonder Woman '84 is going to be played by Pedro Pascal. He was going to be played by Jay Baruchel, which is a bizarre choice. But in this film, Maxwell Lord, goes crazy. He builds like a robot army to take down the Justice League. It's basically an adaptation of Tower of Babel,
Yeah,
where Batman had all the contingencies to take out the Justice League members. So that basically is the narrative of this film. But the film ends with the death of the Flash. It's Barry Allen, and it turns out that the Flash that was carrying the coffin like as a pallbearer in the start of the film was actually a new Flash who just had the same costume. So that
that's
was sort of the
interesting.
twist on the film.
Hmm.
Because he sort of sacrificed himself in sort of a crisis type way. I think he becomes like one of the robots that Maxwell Lord's commanding. But that film, in the early conceptualization of that film, it was considered to be this sort of motion capture. So like the actors would be walking around on set, but like sort of like the Polar Express. They're like what they actually look like would have been CGI pasted on top of them. Like it would have been horrific. But, I'm sort of
It
used
sounds
to that
interesting though,
idea of
mate.
animation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I think actually storyline wise that would have been a great film. Visually, based on what we've seen, terrible. Cast wise, terrible. It would have been awful just due to its due to how they constructed it.
Mhm.
Very irrelevant to what I was talking about.
No, that's it's
Uh, you know,
interesting. Don't worry.
as we both said, that this animation is nothing like that. It's nothing like traditional animation, and I haven't seen anything like it since. And yeah, I was very surprised it was released under this studio because obviously Disney has a lot of sub companies. They have like Disney Toon Studios, and then they have affiliations with other companies, and
Yeah,
it feels a lot more like a DreamWorks film
it does.
or
It
like a
really
Blue
does.
Sky Studios. Anything other than Walt Disney Animation Studios. It just
It feels
it doesn't feel
unusual.
consistent.
No.
uh, but plot wise, it feels to me a bit too similar to Tarzan after it, coming so soon after, where obviously, the appearingly only, it appears that, this one creature of, a unique species is, brought to these apes and, is raised by them.
Yeah,
It's very conceptually similar to that and both the Good Dinosaur.
it's
And,
true.
I think they have
Absolutely.
the, they have the same narrative issues, I think.
Yeah.
But we can sort of talk about that a bit more. Did you have any sort of opening remarks on it?
I think I have a lot of nostalgia for this film. I think that's definitely going to cloud my view of it. But I think one thing I really appreciated was like the amazing visual opening of the film from the dinosaur Aladar inside the egg. That whole transition is actually really remarkable. I think it's really cool. Really cool. I actually really enjoy this film a lot more than Good Dinosaur because there's actually dinosaurs in this one. Like there's loads of them. And like
Yeah.
it's sort of like, it's not really the setting I'd really expect dinosaurs. It's sort of like a, you know, a sort of a road trip kind of thing where like they're trying to get across the desert. And even the like the meteor shower scene, that is like, that terrified me as a kid. I don't know, it horrified me because it's so real as well. Like I thought it was great. What about you, mate?
Yeah, and I would say, clearly they put so much effort into making this look just right. The meteors falling looks incredible, and then they just, give up and just have them walk through desert for the entire
Yeah.
thing, where they could just be,
Hmm.
they could be passing through like a vibrant jungle,
It's a
or
great point.
something a bit
It's a
more
really good
interesting. Because
point.
obviously, I was gonna say no one knows what the terrain of Earth was like, in prehistoric times. They probably do, but I feel like it was just as likely to be, more jungle than sand. I just felt a bit
Yeah.
visually bored
Mhm.
by it,
Yeah, I respect that,
especially
yeah, for
with the
sure.
contrast of like the brown dinosaurs with like the brown sand. It was just
Yeah, there's no real
there
color
wasn't much
palette.
visual
Yeah.
uniqueness for at least 2/3 of the film,
Hmm. It's a good point.
and I honestly have nothing to say about this film because I would say at no point I was entertained. There were parts where I was like middling on it. I would never say I was entertained. I know there was a little bit of conflict with the what were they called? I have no idea. Like the carnosaurs or something. Like they give them
Carnivores or something. Yeah.
carnivores. Yeah. There's a little bit of conflict there. There's a little bit of romance with Nira and whatever his name was. What is it like?
Aladar.
Aladar.
And
There's a little bit of conflict, a little bit of romance, but I don't think there's enough of either to
yeah,
stop like the plot just feeling like a meandering waste of time.
that's fair enough, mate. And I think like it's weird. It's never really explained why some dinosaurs, like the carnivores, can't speak and some of them do. Like I thought that was quite strange. I've never really seen that before. It's usually like either all the animals speak or none of them do.
Yeah, I thought that it would be sort of a Tarzan situation where Aladar learned his communication through the lemurs that he stayed with, and then that would be gibberish to the dinosaurs that he eventually met up with,
Hmm.
which would make more sense. But obviously they're speaking English regardless. We can't say
Yeah.
what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. It's a bit nitpicky, obviously. Uh, I feel like that would have opened up a bit more conflict, and maybe made the plot a little bit more interesting if communication was a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, it's a great point, dude. It's a great point. And like my last note for this was like not much happens. Like there's no real like massive plot points. A few dinosaurs die, mostly bad ones.
And you cheered, presumably.
Absolutely. And like I suppose there's like a moral development for the character of, I think his name's like Bruden or something, where like he sacrifices himself to save Aladar and the other dinosaurs. So that was quite nice. No, I do quite like the elderly dinosaurs. I thought they were quite funny, like the Brachiosaurus and the Triceratops. I thought they were cool. So that's all I really have to say for this film, mate. Apologies, I don't have that much to say. Really, anything from you?
That's everything that I had written. But as you said, there is a bit of a redemptive arc with that dinosaur helping Aladar. But then the final death of the film is actually the character of Nira's brother. I don't actually remember what his name was. Like
Chrome or
Co-
something?
Co- no, it was like Kono or something.
Kono or
Like
something? Yeah,
her,
something
like
like that.
he was the leader of the gang.
The
And
gang.
he just dies because he's a stubborn prick.
Yeah,
Like like there's
yeah.
no
Literally,
redemptive arc.
there's no
He
redemptive
he
arc there.
atta- he attacks Aladar, and just at the end he just falls off a rock and dies. And
Yeah, that's
and
yeah.
I did cheer.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
well,
Rightly
I mean,
so.
this film obviously did not energize me enough to actually do a physical action, but I was just thinking, yeah,
Yeah,
comeuppance.
yeah, literally. And I think like it's a really weird film because like I have so much nostalgia for it, but I can see like the criticisms for it for sure. Like it's quite short at least. It maybe didn't feel short to you, but I was supposed like what was it like an hour 15, hour 20, so it wasn't too bad. But no, I mean I had a good time with this one. Do you have any other points?
No, just to like quickly summarize my points and get a
Go
get
for it,
a,
mate. Go
a
for it.
rating across. I would just very very quickly say unentertaining but watchable. I wasn't
Sure.
like, yes, I enjoy this, but I wasn't like, oh, I hate my life. It was
Yeah.
watchable. So I would give it a solid 6 out of 10.
That's fair enough, mate. That's fair enough. For me, this film was a big part of my childhood. It's one of the first, if not the first Disney film I watched. I think it's really underrated. Unique animation style, so I'd have to oh, give it a 9 out of 10.
Matthew, if you want to give it a 10, give it a 10. I'm not
No,
going to
because
judge you.
the next film I'm going to talk about, I'm going to give a 10 out of 10, maybe. I'll not spoil it.
You
Keep
can
listening,
give
viewers.
out as many 10 out of 10s as you want, Matthew.
No, I'll stick with a 9. I think there's a little bit missing, but very good film nonetheless. But the next film we're going to talk about is my favorite Disney film of all time, and I don't think anything's beaten that. And I have a feeling you're going to hate this film.
I have different opinions.
Oh no!
I wanted to love this so badly because it's one of my. I think it is my brother's favorite film, or at least in his top few. And I really wanted to. I wanted to go into it, have a laugh. It looked visually interesting, and it is obviously. Even after watching it, I can't fault it. It's visually incredible. Animation's obviously amazing, and I love the voice cast. Especially Patrick Warburton as Kronk. I think he's probably my favorite character. But I had some big misconceptions going into this film. I thought this was just gonna be like a fun romp where this down on his luck character who everybody's gonna love is punished for no reason. But it's actually that he's like the film is actually a redemptive arc. And I had no idea that really, in truth, Pacha, played by John Goodman, is really the main character of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And I was blindsided by these complete misconceptions I had, and I think it's not as good as I didn't enjoy it.
Did it not live up to the expectations?
I had conceptions about what it would be, but I didn't have expectations. I wasn't like, this is going to be the best film of all time. So I had no expectations for quality. I had expectations for what the story was going to be, but not its quality. I just did not have a great time.
That's fair enough.
It was fine, but I wanted it to be great.
Yeah, no, I respect, and I think the fact that like you said, Kuzco has a redemptive arc and that Pacha is like the main character. I think that's really interesting because the film, like even marketing wise, it sort of suggested how Kuzco is the main character, but I suppose he is and he isn't in the same sense. But I think maybe some of the best voice casting I've ever seen in a Disney film, with David Spade as Kuzco, is fantastic. Unreal. And I think the tunes in this are also equally as good. And I don't know, I love this film so much. There's so much like quotes in here that I love. And I don't know, I think it's a really special film, but I can agree, like if you had sort of preconceptions of what it was going to be, you would be a little bit disappointed for sure. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, if we can talk about the character of Kuzco, I went in thinking, he's the most popular emperor in town. He's got his groove. He's a cool,
Yeah.
happy-go-lucky lad. But he's actually just a complete twat.
Yeah, he is.
And really, Yzma is
I love
unquestionably portrayed as the villain of the film. She's absolutely my favorite character. But she honestly seems no worse than Kuzco. She doesn't care about people having food. He doesn't care about people having homes. They seem equally bad.
Perfect for each other.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, yeah, really, he's just saying things about her appearance because he fancies her. Clearly.
Yeah, he does. He absolutely does.
But I would say they both have the same level of lack of caring. So I think
I'd agree. Yeah.
So I would say the film, is sort of wrong to present her as the villain, him as the redemptive hero, because they never actually give her the narrative chance to redeem herself. Because if they're equally bad people, then I think the film has to give her as fair a chance to redeem herself. But it never gives her that chance. In the end, she's still trapped in the body of a cat. In Kronk's New Groove, which is the direct-to-DVD sequel, she is transformed back into a human. But at least in the canon of just this film, she never gets a chance to redeem herself, even though Kuzco got that chance.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think it's as effective a redemption arc as Darth Vader. Where he's just a terrible person. He does one good thing and then he's apparently a hero again. Like it makes no sense to me. It doesn't erase all the bad things he did.
Yeah, like there's a point in this film where like one of Kuzco instructs one of his like generals to like throw a guy out the window. So it's like, I'm sorry, but you've thrown off the Emperor's groove, and like threw this old man out the palace, which he's definitely dead, but he somehow survives. But yeah, like I think Yzma is quite a similar character, like Cruella de Vil kind of thing. But I actually thought she was like way better. I thought she was amazing. And Kronk is like, he's not like he's just lovable. I love Kronga. I'm glad he got a direct DVD sequel. To be fair, based on him, I thought it was great. And I think the narration in this film is that something that's done right. I think it really adds to it. And there's some fourth wall breaks in here that could be a little bit jarring, I suppose, for sure. But I thought the narration was generally quite fun, even though it does misplace the timeline of the film because like he's a llama 1 second, the next he's not, kind of thing. So, yeah, no, I thought it was cool. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, and you know where you sort of said about the narration and you know how I feel about the entire film. I think that it is fun. You know, I had a bit of fun with it, but you know what? It's clearly meant to be a comedy, and I you
Yeah.
know obviously you know by myself I would say I never laugh out loud. But you know, not only did I not laugh out loud, I didn't even recognize that anything was funny. I was just like, that was an attempt at a joke.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
fair.
but I didn't actually enjoy it for its comedic value. And I think I'm just cynical. Like I just don't think I think anything with kids humor in it, you need to have seen it as a child, and I didn't. You know, I just think I needed to have been indoctrinated into this earlier. I would say that like some of the only Disney films that we've watched and I've enjoyed are like Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, The Lion King, The Little Mermaid. You know, I think that they were all one episode, weren't they? You know,
Think so,
they were
yeah.
all
Yeah.
fantastic. You know, I even like The Rescuers, but that's because they're not trying to be funny. They're trying to be earnest and serious, and you know, in some cases, romantic. And you
Yeah,
know, I think you're able to sympathize with and understand that at any age.
for
But I
sure.
think if you
It's a
don't
great point.
get indoctrinated into the kids' humor at a young age, I think it can fall flat.
That's such a great point, buddy, to be honest with you. Like, I think definitely my nostalgia for the three films today have definitely clouded my judgment, but I do agree with you. It's definitely a film that I think if you watch as a kid, you'd like it, for sure. And I think, I think the film, one thing I really will praise it for is that it's very self-aware, but I don't know if it tries to do that in like a comedic sense or for a narrative sense. I'm not sure. I think the self-aware does go in well with the humor, and that all ties well with like the amazing animation. Like it's so colorful and vibrant, and I think it's like set around like the Aztecs or something, isn't it, or like the Incas? So it's sort of that sort of vibe, and it's quite a unique because I haven't really seen that from a Disney film before. So I thought it was refreshing, and like I said, I think it's quite self-aware and reasonably humorous.
Oh yeah, I mean, with all the films that we've seen about a romance between a prince and a princess, or you know something in that realm, I would say this is probably the most one of the most unique Disney films we've encountered so far.
I agree.
And you
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
I don't think I can doubt that. But you know, sort of going back to the morality of Cusco and you know
Sure.
how he starts and how he finishes. You know, I feel like in a redemptive arc, you need to pay penance to the people that you wronged, and all he does is like casually apologize to the guy he had thrown out a building and just show basic human decency to Pacha, and then you know he's just morally absolved of all of
Yeah, I know. I
his past
know.
crimes. You know, it just didn't sit right with me.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I do agree with you. It is sort of like the Darth Vader sort of scenario in that sense. But yeah, like I suppose it is integral to the character that, like in every Disney film, I suppose there is. We mentioned it in Dinosaur, where there's like you know, a moral. What's the word? Like a redevelopment. That's not the word. What is it? Can you think of the word? Like a moral development, I suppose. I suppose you could say that, like a moral
Yeah.
development, where like the character who once done wrong now does right. But I suppose yeah, in this film, like looking back, Kuzco is reasonably the same as when he started the film, and like I suppose like Yzma, I suppose she is sort of characterized as the villain, but I thought I don't think she was like inherently evil or anything like that. I thought she was, even though she did try to poison him, but like I thought she
Yeah,
was
I was
quite
gonna say
funny.
she did try to kill a guy, but you know, in most, you know, I mean, in you know, civilizations in the 20th century, you know, it was perfectly normal to like just kill off, you know, a leader if you thought that you could do a better job,
Yeah,
you
yeah, I
know,
suppose that's true. Yeah,
and you
for
know, to
sure.
think this is presumably set hundreds of years ago, like it doesn't seem like that nefarious a plot to think he's a terrible ruler, he's a bad person. I think I can do a better job.
Yeah.
Like obviously, morally, murder is wrong. You know, I'm not endorsing it, but I'm saying you know it's not abnormal behavior contextually.
It's a great point. That's a really good point, dude. Really good point. And I don't have much to say about this film because, like, not well, there's a little bit that happens, but not a huge, not a huge amount. But like I said, I love how self aware it is. I love all the characters, and I think Pacha is like he's just a lovely guy, lovely family man. It's not a character I've touched on that much, but no, I think John Goodman does a good job voicing him.
Yeah, I was gonna say he gave me Matthew vibes up until the point that he like punched someone in the face.
Oh,
Like I was about to write the note, give me Matthew vibes, and then he whacked someone in the face. I was like that's not my Matthew. You know,
oh,
he's a pacifistic boy.
too kind,
Uh,
dude, too kind.
but you know, you would help anyone out in any scenario, no matter how big of a dickhead they were.
You're too kind, buddy. Just the same. I'd say the same would go for you.
I wouldn't.
Any more remarks in the film, dude?
No, I am disappointed with my own review of the film. You know, I really desperately wanted to love it. You know, I didn't think this can be the best film ever, but I thought I'll have a good fun time with it. And I would say to a certain degree that that's appropriate. I would say any laughs that I gleaned from it were from Yzma. She's an amazing character. I can't wait to see more of her in Kronk's New Groove whenever we cover it, however long in the future, however far away in the future that happens. You know, I look forward to it. So I didn't love it, but I had an enjoyable time. You know, I found it entertaining, but I wasn't connected to it. So I would give it a 7.5 out of 10.
That's fair enough, but like one day you might rewatch it and you might like it. You know, it's one of those films. I think, for me, I think I have so much nostalgia for it. As I said, probably my favorite Disney film. I think it's reasonably underrated, although it seems like it is everyone's like sort of guilty pleasure, or like it's everyone's like sort of unique choice. But no, I love all the characters. I think it's really funny. Love the animation. Love how self-aware it is. I'd give it a 10. I have to. I love this film so much.
Fair enough.
But yeah,
I think if I rewatched it with my brother and he gave me a bit of commentary and he sort of like welcomed me into the idea of why he loves it, I think I'd get behind it a bit more.
That's good. Yeah. Well, listen, mate, that wraps up another Disney episode. I suppose other 4 films checked off the list. So what other Disney films are we going to talk about on the next Disney episode?
I am pissed off with myself because I actually closed the window where I had them written down. If you want to talk about future episodes, I can look up which episodes.
Future episodes, we're going to be doing our Christmas classics. So we're going to be doing that as well. And I think in the near future, we're going to be in Rocky films as well. Another big cinematic cinematic collection of films. So it's sort of the first time we're going to be delving into like sports films as well, so it's going to be interesting. And then we're going to be coming out with a few other like shorter videos and maybe reviews of like Tenet, New Mutants, films like that as well before Christmas. So yeah, and obviously of course Disney part. I think this is Disney part 10, isn't it? So this is probably
this is part 10. I checked the other day. So depending on how restrictions are in Northern Ireland, in the coming months, we'd like to get at least I'd say at least one in-person podcast on. I would really love to see in person again.
Completely.
And I think we'll flow a bit more naturally. If we're sat around a table chatting again.
For sure.
I think based on the ones that we have coming up, the most likely candidate for that is the Christmas Classics episode.
Yeah.
And as you said, the Rocky films. Maybe did you want to do Rocky films as the next episode?
For sure, mate.
The first 3 of them.
Yeah.
There's 6 Rocky films. So if we want to split that into 2 parts and then maybe cover Creed sometime early next year.
Yeah, for sure.
That might be good.
Awesome.
And if you wanted to maybe do New Mutants sometime next week.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Absolutely, yeah. So stay tuned to the channel, guys. There'll be a lot of new episodes coming up, and then I think Callum's gonna tell us what Disney films are coming up then in the next episode.
Yes, so we'll be watching Atlantis: The Lost Empire, another of my brother's favorites. Lilo and Stitch, Treasure Planet, and Brother Bear. I know you're gonna like Treasure Planet.
Those are good ones.
Stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Those are good ones. I love Brother Bear and I love Lilo and Stitch. So those are good. That's going to be a good episode, dude. I think that's going to be a good episode.
I think Lilo and Stitch is the only one I've seen, but I'm pretty confident that I'm going to like all 4 of them.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. Well, listen, pleasure recording with you today, buddy. Thanks. Thanks again. You. And I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Please be sure to like, subscribe, comment. You know the drill. And have a great day, guys, and take care.
Bye-bye.